Hey there, my name is Matt, and holidays were absolutely insane. I know I haven't done a speed run in some time, but here I am with a new one finally. If you have never seen one of my stock speedrun videos before, then I strongly encourage you to check this video description for an explanation. It'll tell you everything you need to know about what's going on here, and also a very important disclaimer as to its content. Without further ado, let's see what we got. First stock speedrun of 2013. China Pharma? What is this? Okay, first I want to opine a little bit on how strange it is that I got this as my random company today. Because again, as you know, my dashboard incorporates social media data into choosing a stock. More mentions equals more chances of it being chosen. So I kind of wonder, was this just, did it just happen to land on something truly random, or is this something that has recently been talked about a lot? I honestly don't know. I have not heard any news about this. I have not heard anything about this. Seems to be nothing really too new going on recently. Last piece of news was from 18 days ago. It's a little strange. I kind of... You know what might be able to tell me if this is something people have been talking about a lot recently? If I take a look at conversations, and there's been a lot of discussion recently, that looks like a negative. Okay, I don't want to start by top, I want to start by newest. Well, I mean, 116 is not a whole lot of comments. This goes back years, I think. Okay, this isn't very helpful. Hospitals filled with patients. COVID chaos. It's just this eco-biz guy talking to himself back and forth in here. Actually, he might have some good insight. Let's take a look at a few of these. Shortage of fever drugs, sparking global run. Okay. No, sorry, I just got distracted. My cat is across the room, and I thought he might have gotten stuck on something, but no, he's fine. Okay. Shortage of fever drugs, sparking global run on medicines. Chinese government has issued catalog guide people to it. So is this a company that has to do with Chinese COVID stuff? Announces the launch of N95 medical protective mask. I thought the N95 was specifically made by a different company, or is that... Maybe that's a type of mask, and there's not really a particular company that manufactures them? Or are they just a dealer? They're not a manufacturer. Especially pharmaceutical subsidiary based in China. You know what? I probably should read about what this is first before I start to talk about stuff. Actually, so if I can... Oh man, there's a lot of stuff to look at here that I want to look at. First thing that I noticed coming down... Oh, I'll get to the description in a second, sure. But first thing I notice here is this chart of the year over year. So there's two things that you can look at here, and I'll tell you which one I choose to focus on. You can look at the fact that revenue has been declining every year, or you can look at the fact that earnings have actually gotten better. Well, okay, maybe not from 2020 to 2021 have gotten better, but they're definitely better than they were in 2019. I kind of wonder... Well, that's a little strange. I could say that the increase from 29... That the margins from 2019 to 2020 are better because of COVID. However, you would think you would see an increase in revenues too. I kind of... Oh, you know what? I wonder if they got money from the Chinese government. That might have been it. But anyway, so like I said, there's two things that I can choose to focus on here. I could either choose to focus on the declining revenues or the better margins. I'm going to choose to focus on the better margins. Actually, maybe not, considering the fact that 2020 and 2021 actually wasn't that big of a change. Maybe I'm focusing too much on this 2019 to 2020 change. You know what? I'm not too sure what to make of this. I'm just going to go down here and read more about the company. Develops, manufactures, markets generic and brand pharmaceutical, biochemical products, primarily to hospitals and private retailers. So it makes sense that they would be heavily involved in the COVID business. As we know, China is kind of a little crazy about COVID, even though that they have loosened up a bit recently. The company offers products in the forms of dry powder injectables, liquid injectables, tablets, capsules, Oral solutions. I don't see anything about manufacturing masks. Treat memory decline. Blah. Any mention of COVID in here? I see 2 mentions of COVID on this whole page, and I don't know where either of them are. It's not showing me. That usually means it's embedded somewhere in code and not actually visible. Several products are included in the catalog of medicines for people infected with something. I assume that's COVID. People infected with COVID-19, yes. Several products are included in catalog of medicines. Holding into Specialty Pharmaceutical by a subsidiary based in China today announced that its drugs were listed in the catalog of medicines for people infected with COVID-19. First edition! Hereinafter referred as the catalog. Published by People's Daily, which I assume is some kind of publication in China. Completely ended its strict quarantine. It's correct. Yes. Cold medicine. So they got their cold medicine listed. Our traditional Chinese medicine. Modern traditional Chinese medicine. Just think about that. Just think about that phrase for a second. It's traditional, but it's also modern. What? Has been listed in the catalog. These things have been recommended in the catalog. That pharmacies will no longer register or upload customer information on 4 types of drugs. Will benefit the sale of our main products. Actually, that's true. I can only imagine that China's policy of doing that has made people less hesitant to go, or more hesitant rather, to go out and get these drugs. A little counterintuitive, honestly. Probably will benefit the sale of those things. Market demand for our masks, which apparently they also sell and or manufacture, has also increased significantly. When was their last? When was the last earnings report? For its fiscal year 2021 results, as we received a non-compliance notice from. Ooh, what's this? Today announced that on December 1st, received a notification from the NYSE stating that the company was not in compliance with certain NYSE American listed standard relating to stockholders' equity, requiring an issuer to have stockholders' equity of $4 million or more if it has reported losses from continuing operations and/or net losses. Does it not have $4 million? No, it has. It's $5 million valuation. Well, stockholders' equity. Is that different than valuation? I'm honestly not entirely sure what that phrase means. Got stockholders' equity of $4 million or more if it has reported losses from continuing operations and/or net losses in its 4 most recent fiscal years, which apparently it has. Efficiency letter noted the company had stockholders' equity of $2.8 million as of September 30th. Has the price changed since then? 6 months. Where's September 30th? Get that shit out of here. Where's September 30th? September 30th is right here. He's at 13 cents. So if it was market cap that they were talking about, the market cap would actually be higher then than it is today. 13 cents versus 11 cents. Unless they did some kind of stock, stock distribution, which I don't see here. I kind of want to look up what stockholders' equity is. That's got a very specific definition that I'm not aware of. Reported losses. Company remains subject to several deficiencies and/or incompliance as disclosed in the current report. Company stock per value per share will continue to be listed on the NYSE while it attempts to regain compliance with the listing standards noted. I kind of want to know the status of that. That's a very important thing to know, whether or not the company that you're actually investing in is going to get delisted. The conversations, just Guy again, this guy just talking about COVID and whatnot. And yes, I mean, I think this article here had some good insights as to why this company could potentially see more sales in the future. Will it be enough? I don't know enough to have a definitive answer to that. My gut says no. My gut says no, just based on how that chart from the last 4 years looked like. So the first thing that I want to do here is I want to understand what stakeholders' equity is. What is stockholders' equity? The amount that the owners of a company have invested in their business. This includes the money they've directly invested in the accumulation of income the company has earned, and that has been reinvested since inception. So does that correlate to how many shares are owned by the insiders, the owners of the company? That possibly a good correlation. So I see here 54.76% held by insiders. So if I take that, so I'm going to do some quick math here. I'm going to go back to, okay, I'm going to do some quick math. And I've kind of already made up my mind about this company, so I just want to do some quick math to make sure my understanding is correct. Calculator. Yes, I want a calculator. Okay, so I am going to go back to summary. I am going to take a look at where the price was on September 30th. It's that 13 cents. So I'm going to take 13 cents because I want to understand what the market cap was back then. So I'm going to take a look at 13 cents. I am going to go into statistics. I am going to look for shares outstanding. Shares outstanding, 51.64 million. So I'm going to multiply that times 51,640,000. Yes. Okay, so that brings me to a valuation of 6.7 compared to the current valuation of 5.8. I guess that number works out. Seems, well, difference between 11 and 12 and 13 rather. Yeah, I guess it's a big enough jump to work out. So back then, got a valuation of 7.6. If we take that insider number, where was that? That insider number 5.4. I'm going to take this. I'm going to divide. I'm going to divide it by 100. Multiply that by. I can do fractions. Damn it. Yeah, so this is how much that was owned by insiders back then. So if I go back to that article, it says that Deficiency Note, the company had stockholders' equity of 2.8 million. That number does not match up here. So I am assuming that that is not a direct correlation to how much insiders own. So what is it? How to calculate it and examples. Shareholders' equity or owner's equity is the remaining amount of assets available to shareholders after all liabilities have been paid. It is calculated either the firm's total assets less its total liabilities, or alternatively, as the sum of share capital and retained earnings less treasury shares. So I'm going to ignore this second half because that gets a little complicated. And I'm going to believe that it's this first half they're talking about. Total assets versus total liabilities. Basically, how much they own and how much they owe. Very simple calculation. I wonder if that is in the statistics somewhere that we can take a look at. Oh, I got off that page. Where's my mouse? If I go back to statistics... actually, I wonder if it straight up says it here. Shareholder... No. Or is it stockholders' equity? No, it doesn't say it on this page. Total debt. That would be how much they owe. They have this much cash on hand. Actually, if you take the valuation of the company, you add the cash on hand, you minus that debt, you do come out to a number that I think is fairly close to 2.8, so that might be the calculation we're looking for. But I think I've explored this concept enough. The idea that I have about this company is that it may, I mean, that one article talking about how its products could have a good future, it kind of has some valid points. I agree with mostly what's in there. I still would hesitate from giving it a buy just because of its track record of not doing too well, despite there being obvious demand for its products. The prior years being a good example of that. Maybe I don't have a good enough understanding of the Chinese markets and what they're doing with COVID and whatnot because I'm looking at it in, I guess, you know, I'm an American. I live in the United States, so I can't help but looking at things in through the lens of the United States. For example, if, you know, back in 2020, if a company was making COVID products, they were making bank. Simple as that. Maybe there's different rules in China that I'm not aware of that would have hampered this company's ability to make good profits off of their products back in 2020 and 2021. That is the reason why those numbers didn't look as good as they did. I am not entirely sure about that, but just based on the only perspective that I have, that past worries me a little bit. Because again, it should have been an environment that was very conducive to their products, and they seem to have shit the bed on that because the numbers weren't really all that great from the years prior to that. So despite the fact that they could potentially see good times ahead with demand for their products, I would not be surprised to see them continue to not do all that well. Flip side of that is that they could continue to do well. Maybe there are some Chinese regulations that were down in prior years that they're lifting up. And I'm not talking about the lockdowns. I know about the lockdowns. I'm talking about anything else that I'm not aware of. Maybe there was, and maybe all of that is out of the way now. So maybe they do have a good road forward to make fantastic profits in the future. I am not entirely sure about that. So you know what? I'm going to balance both of those arguments. I know it's a little anticlimactic, but I'm going to say hold. Simply because, you know, it's taken a beating. I would be surprised to see it take even more of a beating. I mean, it's where it's at after doing terribly for the past 4 years. What is it going to go? If they continue to lose money in the next quarters to come, is anybody be surprised? I think I'm going to choose the term priced in here to define that. I think, you know, having losses in future quarters, the same losses they have had in prior quarters, that's probably priced in at this point. What may not be priced in is the idea that they can continue to do fantastic in future quarters because of all those things that article said. And if you are more inclined to believe that, you most likely own this already, and that's what the hold means. If you own it, hold on to it. If you don't own it, would not recommend buying it. So I think that's a very good reflection of how I think of this company. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that hold button. So very interesting here. Apparently, the internet has been chatting a bit about this. Otherwise, there would not be a rating here. So it's possible that we did hit on this because of internet chatter and that I was just not aware of. And that chatter apparently has been at least partially positive, because again, this is on a scale from -100 to +100. Anything in the positive is positive. I mean, 7 isn't terribly positive, but it's something. It's better than a negative number. So my rating seems to be fairly in line with the rating of the internet, because it's mostly neutral, slightly positive. That's kind of where I was too. Not really positive enough to give it a buy, but I felt potentially I felt that there was enough potential there, and I possibly don't know enough about its past and how that could affect its future to warrant possibly significant increases. So that's kind of how I feel about that too. I feel like my rating and the internet ratings are pretty much in line here, so that's interesting. We will see if we are both correct going into the future. But as for now, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.